Is your picture, the hacking of the mainframe, is that from The Matrix? That's from The Matrix, right?
No, I just searched hacking the mainframe on Google, so it's whatever
Were you
Google.
a Matrix child or young adult, or were you not a Matrix child or young adult?
Yeah, I was pretty into the Matrix. I was not a huge like sci-fi person, but I did like fight scenes, so that was a good.
So this is a very important first question to start off with, Kevin. What was the best Matrix movie?
I think the original. I'm sorry, I'm a purist.
You're a purist. So that says a lot about you. I'm kind of a Matrix number 3 kind of gal. I like big drama, but the
Mhm.
first one was pretty good. Um, how are you?
I'm
I
okay. How are you?
I don't want to do the damn intro, Sam. I'm sorry. We're just going to go right into it, Kevin. That okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm supposed to do this whole intro, welcome everyone, blah, blah, blah. But since we're in the Matrix right now, let's just hack right into the mainframe. How do you feel?
Let's do it.
So you are a New York Times columnist. Yes, still? That's good.
Reportedly,
Reportedly. And you live in the Bay Area,
I do.
and you write about business and technology.
True. 3 for 3.
And we are going to talk about technology to use whilst in quarantine.
Great. Like the one that we're using right now.
Yes. So I have two things I wanted to talk about. And then for those who are joining right now, you can put your questions in for Mr. Kevin Roose in the Q&A box. Unless you're a troll, and then I don't want to hear your questions, and I want you to go the fuck away. So the first set of things I want to talk to you about is how you think people are using technology differently and how it's affecting the use of technology. And then the second thing I want to talk about is specific tools that you think are really awesome and cool to use. And also just how-tos on how to best use technology and not to use technology during this time of quarantine.
Yeah,
So let's start
there's a lot there.
let's go with the second. What do you like? What are the best tools that you feel like people should be using, or apps or technological stuff during
I'll
quarantine?
just describe what I use. And I have like a very broken relationship with technology, so I don't know that I would recommend my routine to
Okay.
people, but I think I've been tweaking it and adjusting it for quarantine, and I think I've found a couple things.
Okay.
The first is that I do not do this one, but I recommend it to other people, is that you separate your workspace from your life space. I live in a house. We don't have like a separate office room.
Right.
So I have my rig set up on my dining room table with like my, 27-inch monitor and my standing desk, attachment thing.
Mhm.
And it is hard to separate work from life when you're working at home.
Yeah.
So if you have the space for it, I always suggest to people that they put their work rig in a different room than they do social things in.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's been some research that suggests that people who work from home tend to work longer hours, in part because it's hard to separate.
Yeah. I thought I would be like chilling out a lot, but no, not a lot of that at all.
I thought so too, and I have been working so freaking hard. And
These books, I got these big books. I'm like, I can read Team of Rivals finally. I'm gonna get a 6-pack. Nope.
no,
Working a lot more.
just working a lot more. But I do think there are things that you can do to sort of curb that. So, for example, I use this app called Freedom, which I think a lot of writers use. It basically like shuts off your access to certain websites.
Okay.
And say, I don't want Facebook, Twitter, or GChat for the next 2 hours or something.
Freedom.
And then it'll block.
It's an app?
Yeah, it's an app. And you can get it for your phone or your laptop. So that's how I've been sort of enforcing willpower on myself, is that I'll say like, after 9 p.m. I don't want Twitter. Like please no more Twitter, because I can't sleep. I end up like doom surfing for hours.
Is that a term? Doom surfing?
Well, we're gonna make it one.
Is that really a thing? Doom surfing? Wow.
I mean, don't you feel like that's what you've been doing?
I'm trying quite hard to not doom surf. So I only let myself check your publication, the New York Times, like 3 times a day. Once in the morning, the afternoon, at night. That's it. And that's the only surfing I do, really.
Yeah, it's good to sort of quarantine that part of your news consumption because it can take over your life and makes it very hard to sleep.
Yeah.
So those are two tools. Other things I'm doing, actually, I bought just before the quarantine went into effect, I got an Oculus VR headset. Here, I'll grab it real quick.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so yeah, I throw this thing on.
What does it feel like? What's going on in there?
Well,
Your
I
dog-
should put it in the right way first. So it's got a bunch of apps. Here's my dog.
Hi, dog.
Not a virtual reality dog, actual
Okay.
dog.
He's so cute.
He's in the mainframe with me.
Okay.
So on VR, I've been doing some games. I use this this fishing app sorry, trying to silence these texts. I'm getting spending some time fishing. So you cast your little reel, and then you can reel in the perch or the trout or whatever. Okay. So I can spend a couple hours doing that.
Is that expensive? How much is that thing?
I think this thing was like $199.
Sorry, that was 1 second. Sorry, my rice is ready. Okay, go back.
And it's been fun. Like, it's not something I'd want to do all the time. Like, it kind of hurts after a while. You get like headaches. But for a little fishing to take the edge off, it's been good.
Okay.
I've also started doing virtual workouts. I think a lot of people have been doing those.
Okay, what does that look like?
It's you just pull up a video of YouTube, or there are various apps that
virtual reality workout.
No. This is just like normal internet workout.
Yeah, okay. I was like,
but there is in VR. What's that?
I was like, you have to put the Oculus on to work out. Come on.
Yeah, maybe. Although I feel like I'm working out when I'm fishing. I guess you get a little like arm training there. There is a meditation app for the Oculus, which I love, because you can just like go to the beach, and you can sit on the beach, and it like leads you through this meditation.
And is this, sorry to ask about this because I'm considering getting one. Is it the like basic $100 one, or is it the more expensive one?
It's the basic one. Yeah, they were sold out of the hardcore gamer one. So I just did what I could. Okay. But I was planning to return it, but I think I'm going to keep it. I don't know. It's sort of relaxing.
Yeah. And what are the no's, right? So what are the things you mentioned a little bit with the doom surfing, but like if you were to give people advice on what apps and what places to stay off of in the digital world, what would you suggest to people?
I mean, in general, I think we're still figuring this out, right? Like, we've never done this before as a society. I think a lot of people, are using what they need to connect with their friends and family.
Yeah.
I've been using, FaceTime, Zoom, Hangouts, like the whole thing. But in general, I think the best way to spend this time is to use the internet to connect and to create, and not just to consume. I think that, there's research that shows that we are happier when we use the internet to, have one-to-one conversations, or, small group conversations, than when we're just sort of passively scrolling through our feed, watching the latest, developments, or whatever. So I've been trying to adhere to that myself. I've been trying to like I do still do a lot of consumption. But I'm trying to remember that it's not like the healthiest way to use the internet.
So create and
connect,
not consume. I love that. So let's talk about also, if you're on this call and you have questions for Kevin, you can type it into the Q&A box at any time. That Q&A box. Also, if you don't mind raising your hand so we can see who's here and give you a little shout out and say hello to those who are raising their hands. Mark, hello, and Jasmine. Hey, Jasmine. I see a bunch of people. Thank you all so much for joining. Arzo, Vince, welcome. So technology. A lot of people are talking about the long-term ramifications of all of this usage of technology on society. For those who have the ability to work from home, a lot of us are now using work from home software, and also just like on our phones a lot more. Facebook's like having trouble like keeping up with all the demand. Um, do you think this is a short-term thing? We're going to go back to the way we were using technology before, or do you think that there are going to be long-term ramifications for all this, Kevin Roose?
Hard to know. Uh, I'm not generally the best predictor, but I will say I hope that I wrote a column a few weeks ago that was basically like talking about how the coronavirus has sort of taught us all like the right way to use the internet, which is to connect with family and friends. I mean, it sort of feels like we've been living in the internet that like usually only exists in like TV commercials, where like grandparents are like FaceTiming with their, grandkids, and people are surprising each other over, Google Hangouts and stuff like that. That feels
Yeah,
more like the way we're living now, which is
yeah,
good.
yeah.
I do think I'm not convinced that we are all going to say like this was such a great experiment. We actually don't, need to go outside because the internet's so great. Like I think if anything, after this, quarantine is lifted, after we can all sort of go resume our normal lives, I think people are going to be really, really hungry for person-to-person connection.
Yeah.
Like I, had to go to the gas station today, and I got a visceral thrill when like I went up to the counter and like talked to the guy, because I was just like, I have not seen another human face to face for like days.
Yeah.
So I think there'll be an initial period where we're all just like ODing on face to face encounters.
Like hugging the shit out of all of our friends.
Totally. I mean, right. Like that's one thing that the past couple weeks have sort of revealed to me, is that no matter how good our digital tools are, they're like still not as good as talking to someone face to face.
I mean, I totally understand. I mean, we've probably done 4 or 5 of these kind of interview conversations a day. And I'm in my kitchen right now, and I'm talking to a two-dimensional version of you, which, as cool as it is that you're in the mainframe right now, like it will never ever have the same, like, viv that it would if you were sitting across from my table. And I think you're right. I think there will be a rush back to the human interaction. The question is that just going to be, is that a renaissance? Is that something where, it changes the way we think about spaces? I think specifically about like queer nightlife. There was this whole conventional wisdom that queer nightlife was on its dying deathbed. Gay bars were closing. Grindr had killed the gay bar. And all, in the queer community in San Francisco in the Bay, all I hear is this desire to kind of restore it, and so I don't know. I'm hoping that we might see a renaissance coming from out of this.
I hope so. I mean, I do think that people understand that there are certain things that are just more fun in person. That as many Zoom happy hours or virtual board game nights or whatever. Like these things are great that we're doing right now to get ourselves through this. But like, I don't think anyone is saying like,
Yeah.
I want to live here forever. I never want to go outside again. This is great.
Yeah. I want to go back to an article you wrote 2 weeks ago, roughly, which we already touched on this, but I kind of want to dig into it a touch more. You said that the coronavirus is showing us how to live online. And then the byline, the subject line was, we've always hoped that our digital tools would create connections, not conflict. We have a chance to make it happen. Can you tell us a little bit about what that chance to make it happen looks like and how we do it?
So I spend a lot of time, like, I think for the past couple of years, my beat, the thing that I write the most about has been like basically people weaponizing social media and doing awful things with it, whether they're trolls or extremists or foreign influence operations, meddling in elections, like all the crazy bad shit that we do to each other on the internet.
Yeah.
And like that stuff, it's still there, but I think in part because a lot of that was happening for the past couple of years, like a lot of the good pro-social behavior kind of got like drowned out, and
Yeah.
like people didn't do things on the internet because they were like, oh, social media, like that's for the trolls. They kind of like, it was sort of like an abandoned neighborhood where just the awful, like people are just going through and like looting everyone's trash. Like it's um I now feel like there are people who are actually using the internet the way that it was supposed to be used.
Oh my God, tell me about that.
Well, so like a good example is like, right now, if I go on my phone, I probably have like 4 or 5 group texts going from like people in different parts of my life.
Mhm.
I've got like a neighborhood group text where people, on my block are coordinating, okay, I'm going to the grocery store. Anyone need groceries? Or, I've got some extra masks. Does anyone want them? Um, Sort of mutual aid,
Yeah.
like um, use. And I think that's the kind of thing that maybe did happen before, but not
Yeah.
in this kind of coordinated and popular way.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of thing that I'm hopeful that that sticks around, and that we see if we like, I think the metaphor of like the internet as a physical space is a little tortured, but like if we invest in designing our community the way we want it, like making sure there are, trash cans and making sure that there are people sweeping the streets and making sure that the lawns are well kept. Like if we actually spend time on the internet and invest in it, we can sort of take it back from the trolls and the opportunists and the extremists,
Yeah.
feel like it, like it used to feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm like you, Kevin, and I think that's why we've connected so well. Is I do feel like I have a very love-hate relationship with technology, and I think it's done a lot of good, but also in that it's taken over a lot of our livelihoods. It's done a lot of bad, and not even to mention the political stuff. And I was never the person that used technology to connect with people, right? I was always, if I were, I would call them and I would talk to them. And people always thought it was crazy because that's what I did. I called people. And I have to say, I've had deeper, longer, more meaningful conversations with people all over the country now that I, never would have had before. And I think it is reinstilling hope in me that technology can be a tool to connect with people in a deep way.
Totally. I mean, I love the internet. I grew up on the internet. I, got my first computer when I was like 11, and I would, go on IRC chat rooms, and I would go in message boards, and I would spend, hours and hours on AIM, just like chatting with everyone I knew. I had online friends. I played online games. Like I
Yeah,
was, it was the sort of the core of my social life.
yeah,
And then you grow up and you realize like you got to have an offline social life too. So I did that. But I've always been nostalgic for that time when like you could log on, all your friends were there, they were
yeah.
posting their crazy status away messages with the song lyrics from
It
like some
was.
pop punk band.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was a huge deal. Like
I
what
forgot
which,
about that.
which Newfound Glory song lyric you made your away message like meant so much. Um,
I forgot about.
and I've just like wanted to go back there. It seems like a more innocent time, and there were people doing horrible things, I'm sure, but for me it was like my friends are here, we're all using the same tools, we can all connect even
Yeah.
when we're not in the same place. And that's, I think, a very basic function that the internet performs, but that it's gotten harder to see in the past couple of years because of all the bad stuff.
Do you think there's gonna be like a rebellion of some kind? Like, we're all doing the right thing and staying in our apartments, and we're Zoom calling and Zoom chatting and X, Y, and Z, and we have another month and a couple days in the Bay where we're now going to continue to do this. But what's the point where people are like I can't do this anymore. Like I need a hug.
like just rogue huggers roaming the streets.
Mutinous huggers, basically.
I mean,
I mean, I don't know. Like we should do this again in a month and be like, how you feeling? You know?
we'll all start buying those like love dolls that just to hug, not even to like do anything weird with, but just physical presence. Yeah, I mean, I think look, I think it's really tough to go through life, especially if you're an extrovert, with very limited social interaction. um, I don't know. I mean, we've never done this before, like as a society.
Yeah. There's no idea. Yeah. I just have one or two more questions, and if folks who are tuned in, if you have a question, feel free to type it in now, and I'll get to your question. You have written a lot about election interference, and you've been writing about it as it relates to 2020. Until very recently, you wrote an article about it a couple of days ago. Yes, 2 days ago. I just wanted to bring it up. Like, do you feel like what's going on in the world will increase folks trying to interfere in our elections, or decrease, or change it at all? Change it at all.
I don't know. I mean, I think part of it depends on how long this lasts, right? Like, if we are still social distancing in November, I don't know what that looks like. I do think, obviously one way to hedge against that risk would be to go to some sort of like vote by mail or even online voting system, although I think that's a terrible idea, precisely because I think it then becomes much easier for people to interfere. I don't know. I mean, I think what'll be interesting to see is, for right now, this is a digital campaign. I mean, no one's having rallies, no one's knocking on doors. Like, this campaign, to the extent it still is happening right now, is happening on the internet. And like, I think we're gonna see how that works. I have some suspicions. I think it'll probably help Trump, because he's got a big incumbency advantage. He's got more social media followers. He's got, this audience of very engaged online people, and he's going on TV every day. So, but I could see it going a different way too. I don't know.
The argument, of course, that Trump brought people out in his huge rallies, and Joe Biden was not doing that. And that, you could have seen a groundswell of people kind of getting excited around Trump, him doing a bunch of tours all around the country, bringing out tens of thousands, 15,000 people, and Joe Biden maybe not looking as good next to him. But now, since no one can do rallies, maybe it levels the playing field a little bit. But then I think you're right. If I'm a campaign manager and I'm raising money and I'm being told your field operation cannot exist for the next 6 months, I'm thinking I'm just doing TV and digital buys. I mean, what else can you, and maybe phone banking at home, phone lists. I know we did a call with Bernie's people. They're still sending people like phone lists to call from their home, but you don't really have a traditional field operation in that scenario.
I think if I were running a political campaign right now, one of the people I would hire would be like a professional Twitch streamer, like someone who makes a living broadcasting themselves on the internet.
I'm actually interviewing Emmett Shear on Friday. I'm interviewing Emmett Shear on Friday.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds sort of weird, but like, I think that skill of like, I mean, you saw sort of Joe Biden's like press conference the other day that he held in his house. And it looked like TV on the internet, in this way that was like sort of off-putting. It was like, why are you standing at a podium? Like, why are you reading off a teleprompter? Like, it just felt weird. I like watched it on YouTube and I was like, this doesn't feel like YouTube. This feels like TV on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so I think if I were a campaign right now, I would be trying to help my candidate connect with voters across the internet. And the way that you do that is not the same way that you do it in person or on TV.
Well, some people are doing
I would tell my candidate to like go play Minecraft or something on Twitch for an hour.
I will say, this is my last thing, and we'll get to, we have a couple questions. The use of press conferences right now, I don't think I've watched so many political press conferences. And I have to say, like, Andrew Cuomo has done such a good job of using the press conference as a way of engaging people. And now everyone feels like they got to do their own press conference to kind of compete. And, it's a very effective, I think what's going to happen is we're going to look back and there were people that were able to use this time to their advantage and people who weren't. And Andrew Cuomo was using it to his advantage, I think. All right, Arezzo has a question. Any tips on combating screen time? My eyes are strained. And yes to virtual workouts. FYI, Laughing Lotus Yoga, local mission studio, has virtual classes, donation-based. Thanks for the tip. And Kevin, any tips on combating screen time?
I don't know. Our friend, my colleague Nellie Bowles, wrote a good article today called "The Coronavirus Ended the Screen Time Debate." The screen won.
Yes.
Which I think reflects a lot of how people are feeling right now. Like, there's just no, like, if you can't leave your house, your whole world is sort of on screens.
Yeah.
So I've been gentler with myself for the past couple weeks. I mean, I did a whole digital detox last year and tried to limit my own screen time. I've been, obviously it's been very high in the past few weeks, but I'm giving myself a break, saying, like, we're all stressed, we're all anxious. I think whatever people need to do to get by, I wouldn't feel shame about being on your phone more than usual, because these are real weird times.
Yeah. Mark wants to know, how do you think tech companies are faring in this new environment? Do you think opinions of them shared by the public will change post-COVID-19?
Maybe. I mean, I think they've certainly done a good job of keeping their services up. I've been surprised at how few, outages there have been, or, Zoom hasn't been crashing, Facebook hasn't been crashing. So that's pretty impressive. I also think they're doing better than they have done on things like misinformation.
Yeah.
And removing, false claims about the coronavirus. I think they're being more aggressive in that, which is a good thing. I don't know if it'll change public sentiment. I think probably people will see that these services perform, a valuable function in their lives, connecting them to their friends and their families. I still think there are a lot of real questions about how these businesses operate, and market concentration and monopoly power and privacy concerns. I don't think that stuff's going to go away, but I think right now people have an existential threat. So it sort of feels like the concern is not as acute as it might have been a few weeks ago, but I think that's just because we're all so worried.
Yeah. Kendra has a question. Do you feel there's an opportunity for a paradigm shift of who may be the real Democratic candidate in November? There's a lot of
do I think they're going to replace Joe Biden at the convention, or is there something I don't know? Yeah.
I think what Kendra is trying to say is, in this moment, certain people in our public life are rising to the occasion and showing real leadership. And I think her or their, I'm not sure, inference here is that Biden and Bernie are not. They're kind of like seeming less relevant, and they're not really rising above the fray, and like Gavin Newsom and Andrew Cuomo are. And I'm wondering if, well, I don't think there's any chance that those two people won't be the ones battling it out. But I guess the question is, like, how do you think this is revealing political leadership right now, in a way? I hope I did that justice, Kendra.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard, right? People want to hear from Andrew Cuomo and Gavin Newsom because they're actually running states. They're, putting in place policies. They're directing equipment and supplies and aid. Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders are important voices in this conversation right now, but they're not operationally involved in the response in the same way that governors and the president are. So I don't think there's as much sort of hunger to hear from them. Yeah. I think that there's a real opportunity to connect with people right now on a number of fronts. I think that if I were an enterprising Twitch streamer or YouTuber. I would be selling, effective communication over, video conference seminars for like $1,000 a pop. But I think that the leaders who are going to be the most effective are the ones who produce the best outcomes for their constituents, not necessarily, who's the slickest on TV.
Okay, and then those are all the audience questions. I just have one final one, which is like, do you want to write about other stuff, but you feel like you have to only write about stuff related to COVID?
And there's only really one story in the world right now. It's how I feel.
Really?
And there are lots of angles on that. Obviously, there's the virus angle. Then there's the economic angle of what all this shutdown is going to do to the economy and how we're going to cope with it. There are tech angles. There are, there are education angles and real estate angles. I mean, but it is this. I mean, there's no competing with it.
Okay. I just feel like, Kevin, you have such a mouthpiece. So many people follow you and listen to you, and you have such a following as a journalist. And I bet I'm wondering in these days, like, aren't other things happening in the world that need to be pointed to? You know what I mean? I'm just wondering, like, what stories are we missing as well?
For sure, I think there are things that are happening that are not related to the virus. But it feels a little like I think there's going to be virus programming and virus counter programming. So I think there's going to be websites and organizations that flourish by showing people literally anything but coronavirus. Yeah. And I found myself like listening to podcasts, at night while I'm doing dishes or something. And I'm like, I will listen to any podcast that does not mention the word coronavirus because I'm just like burned out on stories about it.
Probably why the Tiger thing was so popular.
Totally. I mean, I've been watching Tiger King. I think, most people have that I know. And escapism is going to be a big media niche in the next few months.
Yeah. Kevin, thank you so much. People that have joined, I can't send you the Join It link. Oh, I can, because trolls have invaded, and so we turned off chat. Trolls were onto you, but I can do this. So this is the link to become a sponsor of Manny's. We're shut down, and we do need your help and support. If you could please go to joinit.org/o/Manny's. That's the link to become a sponsor of my small business. It's $36 a month. And we could really use the help right now because we are closed and we still have a lot of expenses, including rent. So if you'd be willing to help us and to go here, joinit.org/o/Manny's, share it, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And to Kevin, I want to say thank you very much for the time. Tonight. You're so awesome. And if we here in the Manny's community can be helpful in any way, please let us know. I wish you health and safety, and thank you for speaking the truth and for being so awesome.
You too. Stay safe.
Okay. Everyone, you can tag Manny's at Welcome to Manny's. You can find Kevin Roose at Kevin Roose. Yes? Yep. ROSE. And thank you to Sam for being our operator today, and Jupiter and Ram from the Manny's team. Everyone have a great night. Thank you.